Thank you, Barbara. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have all of you here. I want to say right off the bat that this is hopefully a conversation that have experience with online learning, and I am still learning with all of this. So I think it's important to say that right off the bat, that I'm going to share a lot of different ideas with you. I'm going to share all of my learning that I've had in the time that I've been doing this, but please, please, please share your resources, share your questions. Let's make this as much of a conversation as possible and have you all engaged instead of me sitting here talking at you for the next hour. That is not the goal at all. So thank you all so much for joining us. I am working from home, so if my cats come into view, that's part of being here as well. They're listening in. Like Barbara said, my name is Rachael Sanguinetti Hayes. I'm a teacher at the Allendale Columbia School. While I've been at Allendale, I've taught nursery all the way through 12th grade. Right now, I primarily teach middle school, which is so much fun. I also teach 4th and 5th grade chorus. I do middle school chorus. I do middle school general music. I'm also teaching a songwriting class and rock band right now. I also teach upper school voice lessons. I do all the music directing for our shows. Lots of different hats at Allendale, and it's been a really wonderful place to be. I'm also an early childhood music teacher at the Eastman Community Music School. So I teach 6 months up to 5 years of our youngest little musicians there. And we're actually going through the process at Eastman Community Music School of transitioning our curriculum online for the spring semester. So that's a whole other conversation we could have. For those of you who teach younger musicians, how do I translate the youngest of my musicians to an online platform? So something I've been discovering in the last couple weeks we've been working on it, and something I'm continuing to figure out. And I am also a teacher with the Hybrid Learning Consortium. For those of you not familiar with HLC, it's a collective of lots of different independent schools all over the world, teachers from all over these different schools, and we offer online courses to students in independent schools. That I started teaching with them this year, and I've taught ukulele online. I've taught a songwriting class online, both for middle schoolers. I taught an intro to music theory class, and I'm currently teaching AP Music Theory online. HLC has been wonderful in terms of professional development for me. How do I take this stuff that I know that is good music teaching and good teaching and translate it to this online platform where I'm not with my students in the room? I've never met any of my students from HLC. They're all over the country, but how do I convey the same good music teaching to them when they're not in the same room as me? So like I said, as we go through all of this, please feel free to put questions in the chat. This should be as interactive as possible. So I'm excited to share some of this with you. So I thought I'd start with kind of some macro thoughts about online teaching, just some big ideas for us to keep in mind as we all go through this transition. Allendale Columbia has been online for 3 weeks now. Some of you I know from other sessions I've attended with NYSAIS are only in your first week. Some of you maybe haven't even started yet. So we're all kind of at different places on this continuum of figuring out online teaching. So starting with some macro ideas, and then we're going to get into some smaller ideas focusing on different divisions and different ages that we all teach, because I think for all the people here, we run the gambit in terms of the musicians, the ages of them that we teach. So I think this needs to be said first and foremost, is that we are all learning. I came into this having to transition all of my classes online 3 weeks ago with experience, and some people haven't, and we are all learning together. And I think keeping that growth mindset as we go through, keeping Carol Dweck in our head telling us, you know, we're all learning, this is a chance to grow. Our students are learning too, and I have to remind myself of that. Just because, you know, I think they're very tech savvy doesn't mean they're not learning. This is a huge transition for them too. And so I remind them all the time, you know, Ms. Sanguinetti's learning and you are learning, and things are not going to work, and it's really okay. And that we're all building and experimenting and trying all this together. And I think trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel of all of this, right? If this is something that you enjoy doing, you will, after this whole COVID-19 is over, you're going to have new tools in your toolbox. You will have skills to be able to teach online. If it's something that you like doing, I think online learning is something that's not going away anytime soon. I think it's only going to build and grow, and that the opportunities for doing that are going to build and grow as well. So you wonderful educators will have these tools in your toolbox to maybe potentially continue to teach online. I know as well that as we talk about learning, there are lots of professional development opportunities happening right now. NYSAIS is offering tons of webinars. NAFME, our National Association for Music Education, is offering a ton of webinars right now. Most of them are free, which is awesome. Other organizations like JW Pepper are offering all these free webinars, trying to provide resources for us as educators on how to do this. So I think taking advantage of free webinars is always great, and just trying to take in as much information as we can possibly handle and absorb, but not overdoing it for ourselves. This also really needs to be said early on, is that you educators, you come first, and your health and well-being is the top priority through all of this. My dad says to me all the time that, you know, our EMTs on the front line, they have to take care of themselves, then they take care of their team, then they take care of the people they need to take care of. So as educators, we have to take care of ourselves, then we take care of our families and those who are, you know, social distancing with us in our houses, and then we can take care of our kids and everywhere, and our students and the people that we care about who aren't in our home. But we have to come first. I think organization in this time might look different. How you plan your lessons might look different. Doing things in chunks has helped me. I've heard teachers say, you know, do all of your lesson plans, then do all of your video recording, then do all of your uploading to YouTube, and then shut the computer off. For me, I think more vertically. I think about my classes, you know, one by one. So I think about my general music class and I walk through the steps, and then I go to the next one. But whatever works for you, and then shut off the screen. It's really difficult, I think. You know, in my normal teaching, I'm on the computer a lot, and now I feel like I'm on the computer, you know, 8 a.m. from our morning meetings with our middle schoolers until 3, 4, 5 p.m. And then we just have to shut the screen off. Finding ways to step away, doing planning. I have this little journal that I've been planning in a lot, just so I can do planning away from my screen. Doing brainstorming, doing some of my creative thinking away from the screen as much as possible. And then finding things that bring you joy in light of the situation. I have a doc started. I'm going to add any resources that you post in the chat to this Google Doc, and then I will share it out with all of you. It's just a compilation of all these different ideas. And I have a section on there called Things That Bring Teachers Joy. And it's a bunch of kind of dorky music educator things that you will find funny. Videos about COVID-19. You know, one of them is Neil Diamond singing a parody of Sweet Caroline, but he sings something like hands, washing hands, and he makes it about COVID-19, which I thought was really funny. So things that make light of the situation, things that make you happy, and then taking time away. I know my administrators have said that it's okay to set an email, an automatic response. You know, I'm not responding to emails after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever that is, or I'm not responding to emails on the weekends, and that's okay. And that I think most of your administrators would give you that permission to say, you need to shut off. You need to not be responding to emails at 9:30 at night as you sit in bed and scroll through, right? Like, we need to shut off at some point during the day. And so making sure we set those boundaries for ourselves, I think, is normally healthy, and especially healthy while we're in this whole situation. So thinking about that transition between being in our classroom with our musicians, with our kids, making all this collaborative music, and now being completely online and an online platform, I think it needs to be said that this is not the same as being in the room with your kids. It's not gonna feel the same. It feels totally different. And for better or for worse, it is what it is. My online classes that I've taught through HLC, it was helpful because I started knowing this is an online platform. But now I'm thinking about, you know, this rock band class I was working with, now I'm not there in the room with them. I can't adjust their fingers on the guitar. I can't do any of those things. It just feels different. And just acknowledging that it's not the same, that this is kind of a Band-Aid. This is not going to be forever, right? Eventually we'll be back in our room with our kids, I think is really important to just put out there. And as we transition, remembering what you already really do well, right? You work at wonderful schools. You are wonderful music educators. I can just say that. I know that you are. So knowing that you do things really, really well. You know, you are a rock star band director. You are a rock star general music teacher. You teach certain concepts really, really well, right? You are an amazing sight reading teacher for your chorus. You are really good at XYZ, and keeping those things that you do really well as your core as you try to figure out, okay, what tools do I need to help me continue to do these things really well? Some of the curriculum translates really well. Some of the things you do in your classroom will work really, really well online. For me, my general music class, my 6th graders were just starting a technology unit when school closed. Yes, perfect timing. I was like, okay, we just finished ukuleles, which would not have translated as well. That would have been really challenging because they don't have ukes at home. So it would have been really difficult to transition that whole curriculum. My technology unit translated okay, but then some of it doesn't, right? Your chorus rehearsals, they're different. My technology unit, we were using GarageBand on school computers. My kids are now at home, they don't have it. So we have to rethink, what does that look like? And going back to the core of, what is the core of this unit? What am I really trying to teach? What music concepts are most important to me that they leave this unit with? Now, what tools can I find that will get to that? It's not gonna look the same. I'm gonna have to be a little bit creative. I'm gonna have to think of new ideas. I'm gonna have to stretch it in different ways. And maybe I really didn't want to, but we're gonna make it work. We're creative people, we can do this. So we're gonna, I just saw somebody post BandLab. It is my new favorite thing. I only discovered it a few days ago and I am in love with it. I highly recommend BandLab for any of you who haven't used it. This is like my little tangent. It's very similar to GarageBand. BandLab for education, I think it's .edu. And it works really, really well, and it's all free. It will link to kids' Google accounts if they have a Google account with school. I love it. I've seen people use flat.io as well. I've heard good things. So I'm gonna start talking about more curriculum things, trying to keep it kind of open, not knowing your exact situations for all of your schools. But we're gonna start talking about our littlest musicians. But people who teach middle and upper school, I promise this is not a time to go get coffee, because a lot of this will connect with you as well. And you know your school, you know your kids, you know your curriculum. So as I'm talking through some of these ideas that for me kind of click for lower school, I guarantee there'll be things that you say, oh, she's talking about for 2nd graders, but this could work with these other students that I teach. Or she's talking about 3rd through 5th, but this does also apply to these other kids that I teach. So thinking about transitioning learning for our youngest, my school starts at nursery, so 3 years old. And my wonderful colleague, Lynn Grossman, teaches nursery through 5th grade general music. So a lot of these are things that she and I have talked about, things that she's doing and doing it extremely well. Videos, we're doing this with my early childhood music curriculum as well, is the first place to start. For the curriculum that I'm creating, we're starting every YouTube playlist. We're using YouTube as our platform, mostly because it's just really accessible for everybody. It's not like a Spotify or an Amazon Music or one of those. It's a little harder. YouTube, everybody can access it if they have an internet connection. We're starting all of those playlists we're making for our kids with those familiar songs, those songs that when the kids come to the room, this is what we sing. Those couple songs that are just very, very familiar to them, that they know, okay, I go to music and this is the song that I sing. So every YouTube playlist, we're starting with those 3 songs, just like we would in class, because it says, okay, this is music time, right? That centering time, this is what I do in music. And it's routine for them, right? Everything for, especially these youngest kids, everything is different. They're used to coming to school, they're used to being with us and making music, and now they're home and they're not doing the same thing. So having some kind of routine built into that YouTube playlist as best I can, I think is really important. Creating some space for responses. I think of this as the Blue's Clues and Dora the Explorer. I remember babysitting when I was younger, and there was times like, Steve in Blue's Clues would say, hey, have you seen Blue, my puppy? And you would say, yeah, there he is. And he would say, oh, great job. So as I'm building these videos, I'm giving space for students to give responses, even though I'm not there with them. I don't know if they're actually responding. I really hope they are, though. So space like, can you create, you heard my pattern, can you create a different pattern? Or, ready, hear you sing. and doing that breath like I normally do and hoping that something is happening there with them. Again, I don't know if they're doing it, but I can at least positively encourage them to do so in my little YouTube video for them. I've created a YouTube channel and my colleague has created a YouTube channel, and it's totally up to you how you structure this. And if you want to make it a private YouTube channel, if you want to make it unlisted, or if you want to make it public. When you go into YouTube Creator, which just play around a little bit, and there are YouTube videos to teach you how to use YouTube Creator if you need them. But kind of decide for yourself, you know, who do I want to share this content with? How do I want to make this available for my students? My playlist is unlisted just because I can send the link out to my kids and my families, and so it's harder to find on YouTube if you're not one of my people, but there's no password or anything required to open it up. So trying to make it accessible for everybody, but also I don't want to be the next YouTube star. Not like there's any risk of that, but I don't want it to be out there for everybody, right? So making it unlisted, but again, it's totally your call in terms of how you want to make that accessible. When you're in YouTube Creator as well, there's an option to make it for kids versus not for kids, and that kind of changes the ads that they make available and all those kinds of things. Again, and then copyright is something that I'm trying to keep in mind. It's really foggy right now. There's a lot of companies who are saying, you know, hey, I know we had all these copyright restrictions, but we're kind of taking it away because of the times that we're living in. I know Music K8, I saw an email from them the other day saying, use our stuff as needed because this is hard for you and you have all these wonderful materials. We want you to be able to distribute it. But keep copyright in mind. And if you have a copyright expert from your school, just ask them. If you don't know, just ask. I think they're there for you as a resource. Rather ask than, you know, worst case scenario, YouTube video gets taken down, but it's all that work that you did to create that content and then it's not there. Thinking about activities to do at home, things that these caretakers, whoever the caretaker is for your children, whether it's mom, dad who's working from home, grandma, grandpa, older siblings, trying to find activities that everybody can do with the kids with the very limited materials that we have, right? We can't go out to the store and get things. So whether that's making instruments, I have some resources for you for that, making music with found instruments, pots and pans and all kinds of things. And then providing resources for families. One of my friends who teaches at another school is creating content for her youngest kids, but then creating videos for the parents saying, hey, I'm asking your student to do this. This is why this is important. Here are some other ideas, things that we as music educators think of, like, oh, this would be the next step, but giving that to parents as they need it. Listening lists is something that I'm doing with my younger musicians, but also with my older kids too. Finding the right platform. Again, YouTube is pretty universal. My older students, most of them have Spotify. That's really easy. They can get a free account. Putting on their familiar repertoire, things that they know, things that connect to things I'm teaching, right? Loud, soft, different tempos, all those kinds of things. Music, if you went to see an orchestra this year, hey, remember we went to see this orchestra, here's the piece that they played. And then giving them something to do while they listen, whether that's a drawing activity, whether that's creating something. I think giving them a task as they're listening to your playlist is important. And then there's all kinds of other resources in terms of orchestras are putting out performances, all online right now for free. It's just knowing where to find the content and where to direct your kids. So now thinking about our older students in lower school, they definitely have more independence. They are more able to go on to YouTube, to click links on their own. Although I'm always amazed at what the first and second graders can do on their own. But especially third through fifth graders, they're really independent. They often have the device unsupervised. So trying to make sure those activities that you're creating for them, those things you're asking them to do are something they can do independently. They don't have to have mom, dad, grandma, grandpa there to help them through it. Whether that's a website you want them to visit and play with or whatever it is, trying to make it so they can do it on their own. And then building on those prior learning concepts, trying to reinforce things you already covered in the classroom. And this is a conversation with your administrator. Is it expected that I'm teaching new content? Is it expected that I'm moving forward, or can I be reinforcing the things that we already talked about this year, those concepts that I think are really important, and just reinforcing some of that? I think it can be a balance of both. And then keeping our national standards in mind, creating performing responding. It looks different at home, but I promise you it is doable, that you can create, perform, and respond from home. And then giving more voice and choice, right? These are a little bit older kids. They want a little bit more independence. Could they create their own listening list? Can they do their own movement? I know my colleague is having her students, they've been doing folk dances all year. And now she's saying, create your own folk dance. 12 different steps that we've all done. What does it look like if you mix them up and do them on your own? Send me a video of you doing your own folk dance. And it's been really cute to be able to see some of those videos. And then connecting to activities that are happening in their classroom with their classroom teachers. This is all about communication with those classroom teachers who are also very overwhelmed and also really stressed right now. But just some kind of collaboration saying, hey, what are you doing this week? Is there a way that I can tie into this? Is there a way that I can teach a song or introduce a song that integrates into some of the activities you're having the kids do? Trying to make what we're offering these students, what they're accessing at home, as coherent as possible. That music is part of everything else that we're doing. So this is a couple more thoughts for lower school especially. That communication with the classroom teachers I think is really important, and knowing how the communication is happening with families. I have piano students who are in public schools, and one of their biggest complaint is that I'm getting 12 different emails from all these different teachers, and I don't have time to go through all these emails, and they want me to do all these different things, and I just can't. I know for my school, we've created a Google Doc that goes out from the classroom teachers, either daily or weekly, that says, here's what we want you to do, and here's what all of our specialists are doing at the same time. Here's what Ms. Grossman is asking you to do. Here's what Ms. Sanguinetti wants you to do. And it's right there. All the directions are there. There's a link to the YouTube video or the YouTube playlist, and it's all right there for them. And that means families are getting one email, one set of information, and it's really clear and straightforward. In terms of the response you get from kids, I know my school is using Seesaw as a program that allows you to do that. Some people are using Google Classroom, platforms that make it really easy for you to say, hey, send me a video of you singing XYZ. Send me a video of you doing a dance. Send me a little response here. And then sometimes you're not using a platform like that, and it's a lot more challenging for students to send videos back. So just being aware of what you have access to, what your students have access to, and how much they're going to be able to actually respond to you. And I know it's frustrating. You want to see them making music. You want to know that they're engaged, but to a certain extent, we just can't. We can't know. If they're not responding back to us, we don't know. I have singers in my 4th and 5th grade chorus. I don't know if they're seeing my content. I don't know if they're engaging with me. I hope so, but I really can't know because they're not responding back. And then live classes, if possible. If there's a way for you to, if your classroom teachers are meeting via Zoom for morning meeting, can you pop in for part of that meeting? Can you add a song to morning meeting? Can you be engaged in that? I know our band teacher, Gabe, who's going to chat with you guys a little bit later, is having live band rehearsals with the 5th graders. But again, takes that prior planning. I see the question about Seesaw. Seesaw is elementary aged kiddos. That's what we're using for our lower school. It's really accessible for kids. It's really, really fun. So we're going to talk about middle and upper schoolers now. Again, a lot of this section about middle and upper will also be applicable to lower school, things that we should keep in mind for those lower school learners as well. So again, student health and well-being, SEL, social emotional learning, is something that's really near and dear to my heart. It's something that I'm really passionate about, and just keeping the student first. And we all do that, but it's sometimes challenging in the midst of all these online tools and learning and everything else we're trying to do, that the kids are first, that this is hard for them too, that they are very isolated. I see my kids on Zoom and they're alone in their bedrooms. They've been stuck with their parents now for a couple weeks, or their siblings, or everything else. They miss their friends. They want to be with each other. So this is hard for them too. And just acknowledging that with them sometimes, saying, hey, I know this is hard. I miss seeing you. And then I put modeling online behavior. I was thinking about just showing students, this is what the expectation is for being online. Hopefully your administrator has covered this too, but I feel like always modeling it as a good teacher is important. So I was thinking about this email I got from a middle schooler a couple days ago. Our class met at 11 on Zoom. He wasn't there. We ended the meeting at 11:20, and 11:25 I get this email from him saying, subject line, all caps, where's you at, question mark, question mark, question mark, Wheezes have class. That was it. I responded, hi, Michael, we had class at 11 a.m. and we really missed you. And here's the things that we did today. And here's what I'd like you to do. In the future, here's my expectation when you send me an email. So just trying to keep that modeling, this is how we behave online. Life skills, right? Life skills through music. So this is something that I'm going to try with all of you right now, all 149 of you. I do check-ins with my kids all the time, and I think about it just a way for somebody to actually say to them, how are you? Like, what's going on in your life? And for any of you who teach older students, especially when you say, how are you? They say, fine, or good. It depends on the kids. Some of them are like, well, I had cereal for breakfast, blah, 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 blah. Most of them will say, fine. So I do something called Fist to 5, especially with my larger ensembles where there's too many of them to actually hear from everybody. I'll have my chorus come into the room and I say, okay, guys, Fist to 5. Fist is, I just can't handle anything right now. 5 is, I am rocking, I'm amazing, this is so cool. And you can have anywhere in the middle. You can be a 2, you can be a 2.5, you can be anywhere in the middle. So all of you, let's take a second, give me a Fist to 5. How are you right now, this moment, sitting here? Fist to 5. And I'm going to turn to gallery view because I want to see all of you. Yeah, Fist to 5. And it's okay. If you're a 2, that's okay. In my live class, sometimes I'll ask kids to share if they want to, right? Raise your hand. Tell me why you're a 2. Tell me why you're a 4. But otherwise, it's just really great to gauge, okay, my ensemble today, I got a lot of 2s. My live Zoom class that's happening, I've got a lot of 2s and 3s. Maybe they need something else. If I got a kid who's a 1, sometimes it's good to check in, even just like privately on Zoom. Hey, do you need to just go take 5? Do you need to go get a drink of water? Do you need to go take a walk? Like, what do you need? I think is really important. We also do color check-ins. What color are you today? The weather, what weather forecast are you today? That's always a fun one. And then we have all kinds of other ones that we use. We do road signs, we do little emojis. It's really easy to do online if you're doing a live class, just sharing your screen with them, having a slide. We do animals sometimes too. What animal are you today? Again, just a really quick way to check in with those kids who are so far away, they're not with you. And normally you'd see them in the hall, right? How's it going? And you'd be able to interact with them. So this is an easy way to do it, online learning. I also do office hours, just open time. Hey, I'm going to be sitting on my Zoom call. Feel free to pop in if you need something. So technology is a really important piece, keeping student safety in mind. As we're sharing all these resources, they're all wonderful, and I encourage you to keep in mind which of these resources are asking for student information, which of them require them to be 13. Some of these awesome resources I found online, I'm like, oh, this is a great way for my music kids. Like, this is so great. And then I read like the rules or the expectations, and it's, you know, what information is being shared from my students. Do they have to create a separate username? If the company is going to send them an email to confirm, are they going to be able to get that email in their school account? What is being shared of the music that they create, right? So just keeping all of that in mind and knowing what's your school allows, knowing what you feel like is acceptable, right? My middle schoolers are not 13. I'm not going to have them check a box that says they are. So that's why I was using BandLab, and I had a collaboration with my IT guy and said, hey, I want to use this. What do you think? Is this going to be okay for my kids? We looked at it together. We had a really great conversation about it. There's so much software that's available for free, especially right now. And all of you are posting them in the chat, and I love it. And I'm so excited to go through all of that because there is so much free stuff. Keeping in mind what's free now and what's going to be free 3 months from now, what's going to be free 6 months from now. A lot of these companies are doing like free trials, but if you're creating all this content in this online platform, you want to keep it, right? Hopefully after all this is over, we're going to have a use for all this wonderful stuff you created online. I hope it won't be, you created all these wonderful music activities online, and once all this is over, we never look at it again, right? You've done all this work. Hopefully it's something that we can access online. in the future once all this is over. So just keeping that in mind. What's free now? What's going to be free in 6 months, you know, in September when hopefully we'll all go back to school? And what am I going to be able to continue to use in my classroom? Thinking about what students have at home for technology and instruments. I did a survey with my older students and just said, what do you have at home? My rock band kids, I had them in class the moment that we found out that we were closing, and we did a quick survey in the room. Hey, do you have a guitar at home? Do you have a drum set at home? Do you have anything at home? And so I know now, you know, he's got a guitar and he's got this, but he only has it 1 day a week or whatever the situation is. And it's really helpful just to know that as I'm putting together these lessons, as I'm trying to put groups together to create music, as we're trying to do Little Kids Rock activities together, what do they have at home and what don't they have at home, and what do I have to supplement with technology? So just a quick little Google survey. I did it with my younger students too. Hey, what instruments do you have at home? What do you already know how to play? Most of that I already know because I know these kids, but you know, maybe you're an awesome guitar player. Maybe you have a drum set at home. Maybe you have XYZ. Just having that information in your back pocket for me has been really helpful. And then with what technology do you have access to? You know, all my kids went home with Chromebooks, which means they don't have GarageBand, they don't have any of those Apple products, but sometimes they have an iPhone, sometimes they have an iPad. They usually have better technology than I do. So what do you have at home? What do you have access to? What are you able to use? Or do you just have what school gave you? How's your internet connection? That's really helpful to know too. I have some kids who have better internet than I do at my house and some who have really, really shaky internet. So just asking those questions and having that information is really important. Creating new resources versus what already exists. And Gabe and I were talking about this because we are both people that's like, I want it to be perfect. I want this music example to be perfect for my students. I want it to be just right. And we'll find something else that's like, well, that's the same song, that's the same thing, but it's not just right for my kids, so we'll recreate it for ourselves. Trying to find the balance of that, right? Knowing what you need, and then if somebody already made it, sometimes it's okay to use their YouTube video, to use their recording of it, to use whatever else is already been created instead of making it again yourself. And that's a balance you have to find for yourself. There are thousands of videos, there's so much stuff for you. Figuring out what do I need to make and what is already out there that's quality. And then stealing other people's ideas. It's not stealing, we're sharing. We are all these music educators all trying to figure this situation out. I put a bunch of links to different Facebook groups that I'm part of that have been really helpful for me. And it's a lot of information. So take what you can use and leave the rest. Don't overwhelm yourself with all of this stuff. I know I am often overwhelmed with try all these different tools. And it's like, hang on, what works for me, what works for my kids? But also finding ideas that I might not have thought of. I saw a music teacher the other day who was having her students practice rhythm patterns with silverware. She like had a picture on the screen and they were recreating it and creating their own rhythm patterns with silverware. I thought that was brilliant. I had never thought of that. What a cool idea for music creation. Very hands-on, but also practical, right? They're creating music patterns here. So stuff like that. It's like, I would never have thought of that. What a cool idea. Thinking about engagement versus assessment. So as I'm giving assignments to my music kids, I want them to be engaged in my music making. I'm not as concerned about assessment right now. I am assessing them as I'm going along, but giving quizzes and tests and everything else is not my number one priority right now. My number one priority is, are they making music with me? Are they engaging in my class, period? So just keeping that in mind, right? You would normally be giving more assessments, maybe you give tests, that kind of stuff. But we want them to make music with us. Bottom line, that's our goal. So keeping that piece in mind and then allowing them to be creative, right? They want to be creative, giving them space to do so. One of my assignments for my kids this week was go on to BandLab and make something. I gave them a couple of expectations. I want you to try this. I want you to try this, but make something. Show me that you know how to use this tool. I don't care what you make. And it's been really fun seeing the things these kids have come up with and seeing this little glimpse of who this person is in their creativity. And they've loved it. They just get to play. And that's, I think, something really hard right now is for them to just have fun and to play. Being aware of what's happening in their world as well, right? We're experiencing COVID-19, we're stressed, we're seeing the news, we have all these things going on, and they are too. Different levels depending on their age and their engagement. But I know my upper schoolers are asking me really great questions about COVID-19 and about all the things that are happening in our world that I don't know. This is on their mind 100%. Not every moment of every day, but it's on their mind. So can we, as amazing music educators, take this situation that we're in and do something with it? Can we have them do a parody about COVID-19? Can we have them create something inspired by some aspect of this, right? Making a little bit light of the situation, because it's already such a heavy situation that we're in. Can we have some fun with it? Can we do something? Can we watch a bunch of different parodies people have made? Because there are hundreds of parodies. I'm actually making one right now with my colleagues for my kids, just for fun. And then what does submission look like? Submission of assignments. So BandLab, I said, was really great because it's all right there. Google Classroom works great. I know there's lots of other platforms you're using. We use Canvas is our platform. People use Blackboard, people use PowerSchool. It's all different, but just understanding what does a submission look like from a student perspective? Can they record MP3? Can they record a video? What does that look like from their view? And again, your IT guy or IT lady, IT person is your best friend in all of this, trying to understand what it looks like from their perspective. Okay, this is something I saw the other day and I thought it was so relevant. Surprise, surprise, my students don't understand my virtual instructions the first 3 times either. It is so true. I have done so many classes on Zoom with them and said, okay, this is what you're gonna do today. And I talk them through it. Okay, this is what you're gonna do, right? You're gonna do this, and then you're gonna go do this. Any questions? And they're like, yeah, we're good, we're good. And then we log off Zoom and I get instantly 3 emails. Wait, what are we doing today? Patience. It's all patience. So I try to do video directions as well as written directions for them. If they are doing an activity and we're not having a live Zoom class, I do that sometimes too. I send them an email, hey, this is what I want you to do today. It's all in Zoom. I'll make them a video that says, hey, 6th graders, hey, 4th graders, this is what I'm asking you to do today in class. Just like if I was there in front of the room before they start a project, saying, this is what I want you to do. So my auditory learners hear it, my visual learners see it, and hopefully something sinks in, expectation. I make a lot of demo videos too. For my rock band kids, for any students, I can make tons of videos. I use QuickTime is the platform that I use. It's right on my computer. I can do a screen share. I can make a quick video with audio and I post it and it goes. I know there's lots of different platforms as well. I know YouTube, you can create a video right in YouTube and upload it to YouTube. Some of the platforms like Classroom and Canvas and those, I think have a way to make a video right in it. So it's all up to you what works best for you. Thinking about file size is important too. So if you make this wonderful 5-minute video, it's going to take a really long time to get it up onto whatever platform you're on. Again, allowing for mistakes and confusion. I have to take a deep breath a lot, but they're confused, they're trying, and they're going to make mistakes. They're going to submit it in the wrong spot. They're going to not do what you ask them to do, just like if we're in class, and it's okay. And just sending that email that says, hey, how can I support you in this, right? You submitted this video of you doing this, but I was looking for this. How do I support you in this? I've been thinking a lot about long-term projects versus daily meeting with the kids. And I think it's up to you and your students and what you know is best for them. If they need that daily check-in with you, that's awesome. And having even just a 10-minute Zoom call at the beginning of class to then go from there, this is what I want you to do, go do it. Or having long-term projects. Hey, we're gonna meet on Monday and you're gonna work Wednesday, Friday, and I expect it to be submitted by Friday. And then finding things they can do outside the live class, away from the screen, is also really important. I think that independent work, whether it's creating, whether it's playing an instrument, whatever it is, thinking about that for our older students too, knowing that they're spending so much time on their screen, finding a way to take a step back. Again, doing a quick survey, creating drums. I saw this really great video with the guy who was Billy Joel's drummer for like 30 years. Little Kids Rock posted it the other day, and I can share it with you as well. For those of you asking about chorus, I promise we're gonna get there. But anyway, they were playing drums with spatulas and boxes with tinfoil on it. So I'll share that video with you as well. It was really fun. Using technology for instruments they don't have. Again, there are programs that let you play with just the keyboard on your computer. Most of my kids don't have keyboards or piano at home, but they can play with the typing keyboard, and it's really fun. And then being flexible about how they engage with the material that you're teaching, right? Could they play it on a guitar or a piano or the keyboard? Could they find different ways to engage with what you're teaching? Okay, we're going to talk about large ensembles, and we're going to do this briefly because I am going to give you time at the end to go into breakout rooms and just chat with each other and share ideas and just debrief after all of this. But I am going to share a little video with you. This is my wonderful colleague, Gabe Costanzo. He's our band teacher at school. This is his live rehearsal with his 5th grade band, and they're just adorable. So I'm going to play a little bit for you. It's the end of one of their pieces together, and then him engaging with them with this video, and then I'll give him a chance to talk. So here's the video for you.
I did some multitasking there. Let's see a thumbs up if you think you're doing pretty well on that one. Hey, remember when we were in school and we were in the same room together? We often rehearsed that section that was kind of like this. And people were getting pretty good at that section. Would you say you're like, we'll do this, this, or this? Would you say you're better than you were at that time? That's excellent. Well, maybe let's do this. I'll just kind of say unofficially. I won't put this on Seesaw.
So you can see Gabe engaging with his students. They're all playing together. I'll let him chat about this, but then being able to engage in a conversation with them. So Gabe, if you're able to unmute themselves and just chat with us for a few minutes, that'd be awesome.
Hi, everybody. And this feels like, you know, a lot like my classes. I'm sitting in the same place. I'm at my piano, which thankfully I have a nice piano and it's in tune. So that really helps. You know, one of the things that we're missing in the moment here is we're missing the opportunity to be available physically for the students and be in their space and to respond to, well, first of all, we're responding to what we're hearing, right? Because we're constantly evaluating. As a band director, I'm constantly telling kids about their tone and, you know, try to articulate it like this. I want to respond to Claire, who is I would imagine is a strings teacher. And she says, how do you handle string tuning? Over Zoom, obviously, we can't reach out and say, here, give me your violin and let me tune that. Of course, if it were me, I would probably break the E string. But, you know, I had to tell a kid last week on Zoom how to put a baritone valve back together. And if I could get a kid to put a baritone valve back together, you can get that kid to tune their violin. It took a little bit of explaining, more so than if I were just in the moment. Because if I were in the moment, I'd say, give me that, let me fix it. So now the upside to that is this student now knows how to put his baritone valve back together. So, you know, these are some of the challenges we're dealing with, not being actually in the same space. So let me address just some of my procedures. And by the way, I'm only 3 weeks into this, so I have no prior experience to distance learning at all. I'm just trying to think critically, you know, doing the same things we ask our students to do. So when we play together, it's a lot like what I'm doing with you now. I'm imagining how you might be receiving this. I'm looking at myself on the screen and I can tell, okay, this is what I look like. When I talk with my hands, I make sure my hands are in view. I'll sometimes do some conducting with them, or I'll play along. So like we could all sing the song together, Lightly Row. Ready, here we go. Bump, 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 bump. And if you were singing along, you were doing the same thing my students would have been doing. So as I'm doing this in the moment, I know a lot of people are saying, well, how do you really get your band to play together? What you were hearing on that video that Rachel shared with you was not actually the kids playing. It was a GarageBand file that I created. And I can get into that a little bit more if people want to know. But basically, I made the GarageBand file of the band piece. I played all the instruments except the flute. I'm not good at flute, so my wife played the flute. I'm luckily married to a flute player. So I came up with a pretty good sounding, but live sounding track that they could play along with. And I'll either say like 1, 2, ready, go. Here's me with my trumpet or my saxophone, and I'm playing with them, and they're playing along with me. Or I'll share my screen and make sure I share computer sound and have the kids play along with that. And sometimes I'll play along with that as well. I can also, so let me back up. As soon as I knew our school was closing, the first thing I did is I scanned in all of our band music, every single part. I didn't worry about copyrights. I'm sure they'll forgive us. And I took home as much of the recording equipment at school as I could get my hands on, because I knew I'd have to be doing this stuff. So now that I have the scans of all the band music, if a student tells me, well, I forgot something or I lost it, well, I can bring it up on the screen, I can email it to them, and they actually have access to the folder. It's Google Drive where they have all this stuff. So having, if you didn't get a chance to do that, if you're allowed to go back into your school, or if an administrator can go in for you and pick up your music, that would be extremely helpful. Because now I can do just like I would do in band or in a lesson. In band, I might walk over to someone and say, hey, look at this part here. It's measure 31. Okay, at measure 31, I want you to do this. Well, now I can bring it up on the screen and point to it. I can share my screen and we're talking through it just like that. So all of this is incredibly time consuming, just to echo what someone else said. I'm finding myself working a lot harder this way, and you can expect that. But once I've got these files made, I'm finding I'm not working as hard. The kids use them to play along at home. They, you can see on on the slide here where it says solo. So like what we do all together is one thing. Solo is what they do when they're on their own. And, they have access to Google Drive. Our lower school kids are on Seesaw, and our middle and upper school kids are on Canvas. And we are communicating back and forth that way. And through those tools, they can submit recordings of themselves, and I can give them feedback. The other thing that our kids love to do, and I'm going to end with this, but our kids love, especially our lower school kids, they love to share out. If they've learned a song from their lesson book, let's say a fourth grader recently accomplished Lightly Row, which was a big accomplishment for her. If we were all in the same room together, she would want to share that out. So what we do is I have her play the song, play the solo on her oboe or whatever it is she has. And everybody else stays muted, but we can hear her. And then the other way we do this is they can upload their song recording to Seesaw or record themselves on Seesaw, and I can publish it as a blog to everybody else in the band. So I'm not sure, like depending on the tools you're using, I'm not sure if you can do that. But I'm sure there's some way to do that. And so these are just things that motivate kids when they accomplish something and they know they get to share it out with their friends. I try to make that still part of our practice. And so trying to keep up with all of the things that I know our kids love to do and that motivate them. I think that's just about it. One other thing I want to mention is lately I've been, instead of myself leading the exercise, I'll say, okay, I'd like a volunteer to lead the exercise. I'm going to mute myself and I'll say, okay, great. Johnny, you want to lead the exercise. So Johnny's going to count. He's going to say 1, 2, ready, play. And we're all going to play along with him. So Johnny becomes the teacher. And then I let him do that. We all play along. And I honestly, I keep my eye on the screen and I make sure every student is playing. I mean, that's the best I can do in the moment. So, but that's all I want to say. I know time is running short. So thank you, Rachel, for sharing the opportunity with me.
Thank you, Gabe, for sharing everything that you've learned in the last 3 weeks. If any of you have specific questions about band things, put them in the chat and I will make sure to get them to Gabe, and I'm sure he will be able to help in every way possible, or say, hey, let's figure this out together. So I'm teaching chorus online, 4th and 5th, and then my middle schoolers as well. We do things very similar to band. So we have large group rehearsals. I do them once a week. And I sit at my piano just like I do in the class, and we say, okay, we're going to warm up together. Let's buzz our lips. And everybody is muted, and I see all their lovely little faces, and we buzz together, and I can see, okay, they're all kind of doing what I'm asking them to do. And we do slides or we do vowel work, and I can see their little faces. And if I really want to, I can unmute them and hear them one at a time. Again, there's a huge lag. So performing all at the same time just isn't something that we can do. And it's frustrating, but that's the way that it is, just with internet speeds. We do sight reading together as well. So here's my chorus. It's only a few of them. I promise there's more. I have 40 singers in that little middle school chorus. Here's us doing sight reading. So I pull up Sight Reading Factory. They can see the example. We started doing hand signs like just before we left. So they're all practicing hand signs, which is super helpful because they're all muted, and I see them doing their little hand signs together. And I can kind of gauge, okay, you're doing this, you're not doing anything, you're totally with us and engaged. And then they do individual assignments as well and submit it to me on our platform. We use Canvas. So I can practice with them together, and then I see individually, hey, here's how the student is doing, just as a check-in, because I can't hear them all at the same time. Like Gabe said, I scanned all of my repertoire into a PDF and put it on the computer as we're singing together. So we're singing an arrangement of Blowin' in the Wind, and I scroll through as we all sing together. I have the accompaniment as an MP3, so I play it, so I don't have to play and scroll at the same time. And they can all hear it on their computer, and they all sing along, and I hope they're singing the right thing because I can't hear them. We do part checks, and so I have recordings of me singing their part along with the piano accompaniment that I've put onto our platform and onto YouTube. And they can put headphones in, hear me singing, hear the piano, and then I get a track of just their voices. That's how I'm putting together my virtual choir, which I know is a controversial thing, and I feel like I've seen 50 Facebook posts this week. How do I put a virtual choir together? And I don't think it should be an expectation. I think it's if you want to try this, you can do it. But I think it's really challenging if an administrator is saying, you must do this because we're not having a concert. But for me, I'm doing it because I think it's fun and the kids will really benefit from it. So this week, Tuesday, they had to send in, we didn't have a live rehearsal, but I said, make me a recording of you singing your part for Country Roads. We're doing a 2-part arrangement of Country Roads, which they picked out. So now I have 40 little MP3 tracks of all of them singing, and I can throw them into GarageBand and put the files together. Again, super time consuming. And I'm doing it because I'm not sure if we're going to have a concert this year, but that's what we have to work with. But it's all in the same tempo and all in the right key because they've all been listening to my track. I know some other teachers have experimented with not doing that, and you end up with kids all over the place, right? Because they're just picking a random key. And then Friday, today we're having a live rehearsal via Zoom. I'm going to record the whole Zoom call. So I'll have all their little heads all singing together, all muted, and I can just pair the two together. And that's the easiest way that I can think of to do this. I think you can do it via Google Hangout. I know you can have the kids make little videos. It just takes longer in the Eric Whitaker kind of way to put all the little faces together. It's just going to take a lot longer. I know there are platforms to do that though. We're doing small group rehearsals. We're doing office hours and rehearsal time, again, as best we can. So there they are. They're so sweet. So I'm going to think through this stuff really quick because I want to give you a couple minutes to chat as a group. But again, with all of these resources, making sure that what you want to teach for music curriculum comes first. Thinking about covering necessary content, but making sure what you think is important for teaching music is what comes first. So we're going to put you in breakout rooms for just a couple minutes because I want to give you a chance to talk and engage with each other as you have on the chat, which I'm so excited to actually have a chance to read through because you all are wonderful and sharing out. But Barbara's going to put you in breakout rooms for just a couple minutes, and then we'll come back together. Just something you've learned, one tool that you think is really valuable, or something you need, right? I need a tool to do this. We're only going to take a couple minutes just because we're really short on time, but feel free. Barbara's going to put you into some breakout rooms and just share either one thing that's worked really, really well for you. Hey, this is my new favorite thing, or I need to be able to do this. Anybody have any ideas?